She stood outside the café, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Cold wind touched her face like sharp needles. Her coat was thin, and her shoes had small holes near the toes. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, trying to feel warm, but it didn't help. People walked past her, some glanced. Some didn't even notice her. The smell of hot coffee and baked bread floated through the glass door. It made her stomach twist. She hadn't eaten anything proper since yesterday. Still, she didn't want food. All she wanted was to sit down somewhere warm, just for a little while. Just for 5 minutes. Her legs hurt. Her fingers were stiff. She needed to rest. Inside the cafe, people laughed, talked, and tapped on their phones. Every seat was taken, but there was space. Some tables had only one person. Others had two, but still had empty chairs. She hoped maybe someone would notice. Maybe someone would see her and say, "You can sit here." She slowly opened the door and stepped in. A small bell above the entrance rang. Heads turned toward her. Not for long. A few seconds. Then everyone looked away again. She stood near the wall, close to a heater. The warmth felt good on her back. Her hands slowly started to stop shaking. She looked around. A man sitting alone with a laptop looked up, then quickly looked down. A woman with 2 shopping bags took the chair beside her and placed her purse. There, even though no one else was with her, she walked slowly between the tables. She wasn't begging. She wasn't asking. She just wanted a little kindness. One chair. One chance to sit and feel like a human again. A couple sitting near the window gave her a long look. The man whispered something to the woman, and both giggled. She felt her cheeks burn. Was it her clothes? Her hair? She had tried to wash her face earlier at the public bathroom. She had combed her hair with her fingers, but it wasn't enough. It never felt enough. She stood beside an empty chair, hoping the man at that table would say something. He looked at her, then picked up his coffee and walked to a corner. He didn't say anything. She was about to leave. Her fingers brushed the door handle. She thought, why did I come in? Why did I think someone would care? Just then, she heard a soft voice behind her. "Excuse me, do you want to sit here?" She turned around, unsure if it was meant for her. Man, maybe in his mid-30s, was sitting with a little girl. He pointed to the empty chair at his table. His voice was gentle. His eyes were kind. She didn't move at first. It felt strange. After all the silence and cold stares, this one offer felt unreal. He nodded again. "You're welcome to sit here if you want." She slowly walked toward them. The little girl smiled at her and moved her small backpack from the chair. "It's warm here," the girl said, her voice cheerful. The woman sat down slowly. Her legs were still shaky. She let out a breath. She didn't know she was holding Dot. The man didn't ask questions. He just continued eating his sandwich. The girl offered the woman a piece of cookie. She hesitated, then smiled and shook her head. But the girl pushed it toward her anyway. "It's my favorite," she said. "You can have it." The woman took the cookie, holding it carefully like it was made of glass. She hadn't tasted something sweet in a long time. It melted in her mouth for the first time that day. She smiled. The man looked at her, not with pity, but like a person talking to another person. "It's cold today," he said. She nodded. "Very." He poured her a cup of warm tea from the pot on the table. She looked surprised. "I already had one," he said. "This one's extra." She wrapped her hands around the cup, feeling the warmth soak into her skin. It felt good. It felt human. The café still buzzed around them. People still tapped their phones. But for her, the world had slowed down a little. She didn't feel invisible anymore. She didn't know who he was or why he was being kind. But in that moment, sitting at a small table with a stranger and his daughter, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. And somewhere deep inside her chest, a tiny light flickered on. A light called hope. Asterisk, the woman sat quietly at the small round table. Her fingers still held the warm teacup, and the heat made her feel a little more alive. The cookie the little girl gave her was half-eaten now, but she couldn't finish it. Not yet. She wanted to save it, even if it was just a small piece. It reminded her that kindness still existed. The little girl looked at her with big, curious eyes. "What's your name?" she asked, swinging her legs under the table. The woman hesitated for a moment. Then softly she said her name. Just her first name. The girl repeated it with a smile and said, "That's a pretty name." The father gave a small nod. "It suits you." She looked at them, this man and his daughter. They didn't seem rich. Their clothes were simple. The man had tired eyes, like someone who hadn't slept well in many nights. But his smile was real. And the girl? She had a joyful energy that warmed the whole table. "I'm here with my dad," the little girl said proudly. "We come here every Friday after school. It's our special time." The woman smiled. "That's nice." The father sipped his coffee. "We don't do much. Just tea and snacks. It's enough," she nodded. It sounded peaceful. She hadn't had a routine in months. Every day felt like survival. "You look cold," the man said gently. "Wood." "You like my scarf?" She shook her head. "You need it." He pulled it off anyway and placed it on the back of her chair. "It's okay, I've got a strong jacket." The fabric was soft. It smelled like clean soap and winter air. She didn't say thank you with words, but her eyes said it for her. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice calm, careful. The question sat heavy between them. "I will be," she said after a pause. "Just trying to find my way back." He didn't push for more. He just nodded, understanding without needing full details. Little girl, still nibbling her cookie, looked up. "We got lost once," she said, "at the zoo. But Daddy found the way out." The woman chuckled, her first real laugh in days. "That's good." The girl leaned forward like she was sharing a big secret. "He always finds the way." The man smiled and ruffled his daughter's hair. "Not always, but I try." There was silence for a moment. Not the awkward kind, but the peaceful kind. The kind where no one has to fill the space. It just feels right. The woman looked around. No one else in the cafe paid attention to them anymore. A few people still glanced over, but it didn't matter. She wasn't standing anymore. She wasn't ignored. She was at a table. She was seen. The father checked his watch. "We usually head to the park after this," he said. "Just for a little while." "She likes the swings." The girl clapped her hands. "You can come too. The park is fun." The woman hesitated. "I don't want to intrude." "You won't," he said. "It's a public park." The girl tilted her head. "You can sit on the bench while we play. It's better than standing alone." That offer touched her more than they knew. A bench in the park, a warm scarf, a half cookie. These things may seem small to others, but to her, they were everything. "I'd like that," she said softly. They finished their tea. The father helped his daughter with her jacket. Then he turned to the woman. "You have gloves?" he asked. She showed her bare hands. He sighed and gave her a second pair from his coat pocket. "These are my old ones, not fancy but they work." She put them on slowly. Her fingers felt warmer right away. Outside, the air was still cold, but it didn't feel as harsh anymore. They walked together toward the park. The little girl skipped ahead. The woman walked beside the man, quiet, but not uncomfortable. He didn't try to rescue her. He didn't ask for her story. He simply made space for her heart, for her pain, for her to breathe. That was something no one else had done. As they reached the park gate, the woman looked at him and said quietly, "You didn't have to do this." "I know," he replied, "but someone should have." She nodded. A tear rolled down her cheek. but she quickly wiped it before the girl saw. They entered the park. The swings waited. The bench was empty, and for the first time in a long while the world didn't feel like it was against her. It felt kind. The park was quiet, but not empty. A few children ran across the grass, their laughter soft and distant. Trees stood tall, their leaves trembling in the cold wind. The sun was already low, hiding behind gray clouds. But the little girl didn't seem to mind. She rushed toward the swings with joy, her backpack bouncing on her back. The man and the woman followed slowly, walking side by side without saying much. The silence between them was calm, not awkward. Sometimes words weren't needed. The woman sat on a wooden bench near the swings. She kept the scarf around her neck and the gloves on her hands. The cold was still there, but not biting anymore. Her bones didn't ache as much now. She felt a little more like herself, whoever that still was. The man sat beside her. He leaned back and watched his daughter swing high, her hair flying behind her. "She loves the swings," he said quietly. "Says it feels like flying," the woman smiled. "She's full of life." "Yeah," he nodded. "She keeps me going." The woman looked down at her hands. The gloves were too big, but warm. She could still feel the softness of the cookie. She hadn't finished at the café. That moment already felt far away, but she held onto it like a fragile treasure. She looked up again, this time not just at the girl, but at the man beside her. "You're kind," she said softly. "You didn't have to do any of this." He glanced at her, then looked back toward the swing. "I know what it feels like when nobody sees you." The woman stared at him. "I wasn't always like this," he said. "After my wife passed, people stopped calling. Friends disappeared. I'd sit at places like that cafe, just hoping someone would talk to me. Most never did." "I'm sorry," she whispered. He shrugged. "It's all right. Life goes on. I have my girl now. She reminds me every day that not everything is lost." The woman didn't speak for a while. Her eyes were fixed on the little girl, still swinging, still laughing. "I lost my job 2 months ago," she said at last. "Didn't have anywhere to go after the last rent was due. I kept thinking I'd find something. But days turned into weeks, and now—" She looked down again. "I walk around. Try not to be in one place too long. People don't like that." He didn't interrupt her. He just listened. "I wasn't always like this either," she added. "I used to smile a lot. I used to buy tea for strangers. I thought the world was good. It still is," he said gently. "Sometimes it just hides." She nodded slowly. Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. "No one has asked me my name in days," she said. He looked at her kindly. "Well, I'm glad I did." The girl ran back to them then, cheeks red from the cold and laughter. She threw her arms around her father and squeezed him tightly. "Can we come again tomorrow?" she asked. He smiled. "We'll see." She looked at the woman. "Will you come too?" The woman was surprised. "You want me to?" The little girl nodded. "You're nice. And I like your smile." The woman felt her heart warm in a way it hadn't in a long time. "I'd like that," she said. The man stood and reached into his coat. He pulled out a folded napkin and a pen from his pocket. He scribbled something down and handed it to her. "My number," he said, "in case you ever want to talk or need help." She stared at the napkin like it was made of gold. Her hands shook as she took it. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," he replied. The girl tugged at her dad's coat. "It's getting dark," he nodded. "Let's go, sweetheart." He turned to the woman again. "You'll be okay," he said. "I believe that." The woman watched them walk away. The little girl turned once to wave. The woman waved back, her chest tight, her throat thick with emotion. She sat on the bench a little longer, the napkin still in her hand, the gloves on her fingers, the scarf around her neck. The world hadn't changed completely. But something inside her had. Someone saw her. Someone shared a chair. Someone gave her hope. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, she didn't feel invisible. Asterisk. The next morning, the woman stood outside the same café. This time the sun was out, but the air was still cold. Her hands stayed warm inside the gloves the man had given her. She wore the scarf around her neck and pulled it up to her chin. She had slept lightly on a bench in a quiet street. But even with little sleep, her heart didn't feel as heavy today. Something had changed. She still didn't have a home. She still didn't have a job, but someone had seen her. Someone had treated her like a human being. And now, for the first time in a long while, she felt like maybe things could get better. She pushed open the door of the café. The bell above rang softly. The same tables. The same smell of coffee and bread. A few faces looked up, some from the day before. One barista behind the counter recognized her. He looked at her, paused, then nodded once, almost like a silent hello. She didn't expect it. That small nod hit her chest like a warm blanket. The woman walked to a corner and sat down. She didn't try to ask anyone for help. She didn't need to. She just wanted to rest her legs, sip some water, and think. To her surprise, the same barista walked over. He placed a hot cup of tea on her table. She blinked. I didn't order, he smiled. It's on the house. You look like you could use it. She looked at him with wide eyes. Her lips parted, but she couldn't speak at first. Then she softly said, "Thank you." He just nodded and walked away. She wrapped her fingers around the cup. Warm again. Safe. Again, and she hadn't even asked. This time, someone offered without her needing to be noticed in pain. She didn't know it yet, but the cafe had changed a little too. Yesterday, when the single father gave her a seat, people watched. Not all, but a few. Some felt guilt. Others felt surprised. One woman, who had earlier placed her purse on the chair beside her to block space, had watched from the corner. She remembered the way the man gently welcomed the stranger. It stayed with her all night. That same woman now entered the cafe with a plastic bag. She spotted the woman sitting quietly in the corner. At first, she walked past. Then, after a deep breath, she turned back and walked over. I saw you yesterday, she said. I wasn't very kind. The woman looked up, surprised. The lady placed the bag on the table. There's a sandwich and a bottle of juice. I thought maybe you'd need it. The woman blinked again, stunned. Her lips trembled. I don't know your story, the lady added. But I just wanted to do something good today. The woman placed a hand over the bag. Thank you, she whispered. This means more than you know. The lady gave a small smile and walked away quickly, almost shy. And just like that, another drop of kindness fell into the world. Later that afternoon, a teenage boy who had laughed at her the day before walked past the cafe window. He paused. He remembered how the man's daughter had shared her cookie without hesitation. He remembered how the woman smiled through her tears. Something about it felt heavy in his chest. He turned around, entered the cafe, and left a folded note on the woman's table without saying anything. When she opened it, it read, "Don't give up." Her hand flew to her mouth. A quiet sob escaped her throat, but no one laughed, no one stared. One person even offered her a napkin without a word. She realized something powerful that day. One act of kindness didn't stop at one person. It spread, it moved. It taught others to see what they had ignored. The man who gave her a chair didn't fix her life. He didn't offer a solution. But he started something greater. He reminded people around him how simple kindness could look. He reminded them that humanity was not loud or flashy. It was soft, gentle, quiet, but strong. When she stepped out of the cafe that evening, her arms were not empty. She had a sandwich in her bag, warm gloves on her hands, and a napkin with words she'd keep forever. She stood at the corner where she usually paused, uncertain where to go next. Then her hand touched her coat pocket and pulled out the napkin. With the man's number, she stared at it for a long time. The sun was setting. The air was colder again. But her heart felt warm. She took a deep breath, held the napkin close to her chest, and walked down the street, not fast, not slow, just steady. And for the first time in months, she was walking toward something instead of away from everything. She stood outside the building with her heart racing. The folded napkin with the man's number was still in her hand. She had read it again and again. Each time she did, something inside her whispered, "It's okay to ask." She had never liked asking for help. It made her feel weak, exposed. But after everything that had happened the past 2 days, the chair, the scarf, the tea, the smile from a child, it didn't feel like asking anymore. It felt like reaching out. She walked to the nearest public phone and slowly dialed the number. Her hands shook as the phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice answered. "Hello." She froze for a moment, then said quietly, "It's me. From the café." There was a pause, and then she heard his voice change softer now, surprised but glad. "I was hoping you'd call." She smiled a little, the first real smile that day. "I didn't know if I should. I'm glad you did," he said. "Are you okay?" She took a deep breath. "I'm better than I was yesterday, but I don't know what comes next." There was a short silence. Then he said, "Would you like to meet again? Same place?" She nodded, though he couldn't see her. "Yes, I'd like that." They met at the cafe an hour later. This time, he was already waiting with 2 cups of tea on the table. His daughter waved when she saw her. "You came," the girl said, excited. "I saved your chair." The woman sat down, smiling gently. "Thank you." They talked more that day, not just about pain or the past, but small things. Childhood memories, favorite food, dreams they had once believed in. It didn't feel heavy. It felt human. The man listened without judgment. The little girl filled the quiet spaces with her laughter. At one point, the man took out a small brochure from his bag. I asked around. He said, "There's a women's center nearby. They offer a safe place to stay. They help with work too." The woman looked at the paper. Her eyes scanned the address, the phone number, the soft words printed on it. "You are not alone." "Would they even take me?" she asked, doubt slipping into her voice. "They've helped people in worse shape," he said. "And I can go with you if that helps." She bit her lip, thinking, "You've already done so much." He shook his head. "If I was in your place, I'd hope someone would do the same." She held the paper tightly, like it was something precious. Next morning, they met again. This time, he walked her to the women's center. The building looked old, but welcoming. Inside, warm lights glowed, and people smiled, not the fake kind, but the real kind that touched the eyes. A staff member gently took her name, her story, and told her they had a bed for her. Not forever, but for now, a safe space. A beginning. Before she walked in, the man pulled something from his pocket, a folded note. He handed it to her. "Just in case you need a little more hope." She opened it after she stepped inside. It was a drawing. A stick figure of 3 people sitting at a table. 2 big ones and 1 small. The little girl had drawn it. On the bottom it said, in messy handwriting, "Family starts with kindness." Tears fell from her eyes. She pressed the paper to her chest. Days passed. She stayed at the center. They helped her get a clean set of clothes, warm food, and most of all a plan. She began filling out job applications. She took a few small classes. Every evening, she looked at the drawing and the napkin, still folded neatly in her coat. One morning she received a call. "I'm making pancakes," the man said, "and someone wants to know if you'll come eat with us." The girl's voice came next, cheerful and bright. "Please, we have syrup and everything." The woman laughed. Softly, I'd love that. She met them at the cafe later. Same table. Same warmth, but this time, she didn't come as someone lost. She came as someone healing, someone becoming whole again. And as they laughed together, shared stories, and clinked teacups, something clear became true. The world hadn't been kind to her for a long time. But one man, one child, one table, and one small act changed everything. She may have walked in cold and forgotten once, but now, she was not alone anymore.